Welcome to Pittsburgh Sports Live. I'm George Michalowski with Pittsburgh Sports Now, and I would like to welcome on a very special guest today. Today I'm bringing on Michelle Kaufman. Michelle covers the Miami Hurricanes, among a lot of other things, for the Miami Herald. She's been there since 1996, has been all around the world covering all sorts of things, but today we're going to be talking some Miami hoops. So welcome on, Michelle. It's a pleasure.
Sure. Nice to meet you. Nice to chat with everyone in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah. So last year's Miami team, Pitt fans will obviously remember them because knocked them out of the ACC tournament. But overall, not so good of a year for Miami, 10-17, 4-15 in the ACC. You fast forward to now, after one off season, most of their talent seems to be returning. So it's pretty much looking upwards for Miami. But did they lose anyone this offseason? Were there any losses? Pitt lost 5 guys, so many schools around the country lost a ton of players. Did Miami lose anyone?
Miami did. I mean, I think the average was 4 players per team. There were like 1,600 players in the transfer portal or something. It was crazy. Miami did lose players. The biggest one, they lost 3 players altogether, but the one that people would remember the most is Chris Likes. Chris Likes was the little tiny point guard who was, listed at 5'7", but I can tell you that I'm 5'3", and he was maybe 2 inches taller than me. So I'm going to put him at 5'5". Anyway, Chris was a very electric and dynamic player, but he really didn't play all of last season, to be honest. He had an injury early in the season that just went on and on and on and dragged on to the point that a lot of people were just wondering, like, does he just not want to play? What's going on? He would practice during the week and they said he's going to play, and then all of a sudden it'll be time for the game, and he can't play. So anyway, things just kind of soured with him as the season went on, and he ended up leaving. He's at Arkansas. So they lost him to Arkansas. They lost their center, Nasir Brooks, who was a transfer from Cincinnati, who had come just for 1 year. He was a 5th-year senior, really interesting guy, a really good guy, team leader. He was a chef off the court. They call him the 7-foot chef. He actually has like an Instagram account, and he makes recipes, and he's 7-foot chef. He was teaching inner city kids how to cook. So he's an interesting guy, but he left after 1 year. He went to Ole Miss. And then Elijah Olani, who had just transferred from Stony Brook, returned to Stony Brook. So he came from Stony Brook, played 1 year, and returned to where he came from. So those are the 3 losses that they had. Chris Likes, people would say, is the biggest loss because he has, at times been a very exciting player. But I think that the team may actually be better without him, only because he was never really a true point guard. He's more of a shooting guard. He's small and he's quick, and so they just put him at the point guard because that's where they usually put the smallest guy. But he never was really a true ball distributor. He was always kind of, to me, he looked like he was running around a lot, dribbling around, and then all of a sudden he'd try to figure out what to do, and by then it was too late. And so he didn't have the best court vision. He was much more of a shooter, super fast. He was a good defender. So it's not that they won't be losing anything, but they brought in to replace him, Charlie Moore, who's a transfer from DePaul. And he was all Big East at DePaul, kind of an interesting guy because this is his 4th school in 5 years, which is kind of crazy. But he was a Mr. Illinois, very highly recruited coming out of high school. Then he ended up going to Cal. Then from Cal, he went to Kansas. So he was at Cal, he was at Kansas. Then he went back to DePaul. He's from the Chicago area. So he went to DePaul and was there. And all of the changes have been because of coaching changes. He says that, and I've done some research on him. It's not really that he's a trouble kid or anything. It's just that everywhere he went was to play for a certain coach, and then that coach left. So he went to Cal and left, and then he went to Kansas, and then he went to DePaul, and now he's here. So this is his 4th school in 5 years, but the word is that he's really, really good. And he has a lot of experience now. He's obviously played at all these schools and all the different leagues pretty much around the country. The ACC is like the final one that he can check off now. He's already played in all the other conferences. So he'll be bringing his talents, as they say, to the ACC. And Coach Larinaga views him as a replacement for Chris Likes. And everyone has been saying that he's more of a true point guard than Chris Likes was. Yeah.
Charlie, it's funny you bring him up. It's kind of all full circle for me because I grew up in the Chicago area. I grew up watching Charlie play, and I remember I was at the Proviso West holiday tournament. It's this big holiday tournament in Chicago, and he played for Morgan Park High School, which is, super popular, big time high school basketball in Chicago. Adam Miller, Iota Sunmu. He played alongside Iota Sunmu there. Illinois legend, just got drafted by the Bulls. And Charlie was just this little guy who started since his freshman year on Morgan Park. And he was, he's another guy. He's listed at 5'11", I think, but he couldn't have been more than 5'9", 5'10" in high school. He's just this guy who's chucking up the deepest threes, breaking guys' ankles. At that tournament alone, I saw him play against Jalen Brunson, playing alongside Io. He was electrifying, kind of like how you described Likes. He just got to where he wanted, offensive beast. And, he actually committed to Memphis in high school, I remember. So technically this could be his fifth school if you
if you count the commitment that he decommitted from.
Yeah. He committed to Memphis in high school, Illinois Mr. Basketball, like you said. And then comes home to DePaul, put up solid numbers. I think he had 14 points a game last year or something. So he'll definitely be able to play in the ACC.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him play. And everyone, the players and coaches that I've spoken to, they all say that, he's absolutely going to be a replacement for Chris Likes. And, not only in his style of play, like you describe him, but that he may even be a better fit for the point guard position than Chris was. And then the other guy who transferred in is named Jordan Miller. He's coming in from George Mason, and he's going to replace Earl Timberlake. Oh, Earl Timberlake is the other guy who left. I forgot. Earl Timberlake was a big time recruit, came in and basically played 1 year and now is at Memphis. So Coach L says that Jordan Miller, who's from George Mason, and Coach L has a lot of contacts in the DC area and with George Mason since he used to coach there. So what he's been told is that Jordan Miller will be sort of a type of player as, similar to Earl Timberlake. So those two transfers came in to replace the two transfers that went out. So they really do, like you said, everyone is pretty much back. The big two question marks were Isaiah Wong and Cam McGusty, because they both declared, they put their names in to test the waters, both with the option of coming back, and they tested the waters and found that the waters were pretty not too hot waters. They were kind of cool waters. And it was like nobody was that interested in them yet. So they both decided to come back, which was really good news for Miami. So they're going to have Cam McGusty back. They have Isaiah Wong back, who was obviously one of their best players last year. Those two, Cam and Isaiah. They have Sam Wartenberg will be back. He missed all of last season with a foot injury after surgery. So he'll be back. He's a very kind of physical forward. And then Rodney Miller is a center who's like, probably 24 years old by now. He's been there forever. I think this is his 6th year. But he was injured last year with a back injury. He's going to be back. Deng Gak is another tall center guy who has also battled injuries here and there, but he's coming back. And then they have Harlan Beverly and Anthony Walker. So they have pretty much everyone except those guys I mentioned who left. So there were 4 guys who left, 2 guys coming in. And then they have a couple of freshmen coming in they have 3 freshmen coming in that at least a couple of them I think could see some playing time. They have Jakai Robinson, who's a 4-star recruit out of Maryland. He's like 6'4", kind of a swing guard kind of guy. He picked over Clemson, UConn, Florida, Georgetown, or Georgia Tech, NC State. So he was recruited by a lot of good schools, chose Miami. Then their other 4-star recruit is Joseph Bensley, who's from Massachusetts, and he picked Miami over Boston College and Marquette, and Providence, I think. And then the other guy is Wooga, which I just like to say his name, but Wooga Poplar. He's 6'5", he's a guard out of Philly. again, they like to recruit in the Philly, Maryland, New Jersey kind of area.
Right.
They have a lot of contacts in that area. So those are the three freshmen coming in: Wuga, Jakai, and Joseph Bensley. All of them, guards who can do a lot of different things, versatile.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, in my view, well, they're obviously the team's going to be better. I don't think they can be much worse than they were last year. They really did have a poor season last year. They've had a kind of disappointing last couple of years, to be honest. They were really on a roll. They made 2 Sweet 16s in 4 years. In 2013 and 2016, they made the Sweet 16.
Right.
Everyone was very excited about the program. The attendance had gone up. They were selling out games. It was a really exciting time for UM basketball. Then the whole NCAA investigation came around, and that really hurt them. Even though they were never implicated, they never were charged with anything. They investigated up and down and sideways and didn't find anything. But in the process, they pretty much lost 2 recruiting years, because when you are under investigation, even as much as you might say, we're not involved, we didn't do anything, la, 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 it doesn't matter when the other schools recruited against them, and they lost a lot of recruits in 2 whole recruiting cycles. So they're just now kind of recovering, because 2018 was their last really good, they went to the tournament in 2017, 2018, lost in the first round, but then 2019, they didn't make the tournament. And this past year, they didn't make the tournament. So it's been 2 years without tournaments. That's not Coach L. He likes to make the tournament, make a run in the tournament. And they've really kind of been a little bit on a slide the last couple of years. And he's hoping that with all of these guys coming back, plus the new guys coming in, the transfers and the freshmen, that they will be able to climb back up in the ACC again, and definitely make the NCAA tournament, which is something, again, they didn't do the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, and in last year, I think it has to be noted that, I mean, I remember when they played against Pitt, I wrote a column right before the game. The headline was something like "Injury Riddled Miami taking on Pitt with 6 players."
Yeah, they played a lot of their games with 6. They
Yeah.
played a lot of their games with like 6 guys and 1 walk-on. That may be even a game where one of the walk-ons started.
Yeah, Willie Harrington, right?
Willie Harrington, right? Also from Chicago. So, yeah, they were starting walk-ons. It got that thin last year. They were starting walk-on players. Again, there were all these questions about Chris Likes, because toward the end of the season, they kept saying, oh, he'll be ready. He's going to play next week. Oh no, he's going to play next week. He's going to be ready by the so-and-so game. Then they said he's going to be ready for the postseason. He'll be ready for the ACC tournament. And it just kept getting pushed back and back and back. And it was kind of a mysterious injury that nobody could really figure out. And Earl Timberlake was also injured all the time. They just had a group of guys that were injured all the time. I will note that they changed the trainer over the offseason. Yeah. And I had asked that question of Coach L. I said, why do you guys have so many injuries? I mean, it just seems kind of weird, because it was 2 years in a row. Honestly, it wasn't just this year. The previous year also, they started off with a bunch of players, and then the attrition was just horrible. And they were playing again with 7, 8 players, 6 players. And you can't sustain an ACC season with that many injuries. So I asked Coach L at the end of the season, do you think maybe something's wrong with the way you guys are training? Is there something with the way you guys are working out? Maybe, do you maybe need a new trainer? And he said, oh, no, everything's fine. But about a month later, they did get rid of the trainer and hired a new one. So, I think that was an issue for sure. All the injuries and just, the NCAA investigation hurt them in 2 recruiting cycles. So now I think they're really feeling Coach L and Chris Caputo, that I talked to, the assistant coach, associate coach. They both are feeling very upbeat about this season, very upbeat. And then as far as recruiting, since you know about recruiting, all that, one of the other pickups that they made this offseason is hiring an assistant coach, DJ Irving, who is an AAU, big time AAU coach who has a lot of top recruits and a lot of connections in the AAU world, out of the Philadelphia area. And he is now an assistant on So I think that will probably benefit them in the next couple of years with helping them at least get a foot in the door with some of the top AAU players.
Oh yeah, and it sounds like you said, the staff's excited. Everyone's new assistant, new players, old guys back. I saw John Rothstein, college basketball reporter. I saw he predicted, it's getting to that time where all these power rankings are coming out, preseason.
Yeah, the preseason. Yeah.
Yeah. He had Miami at 10th in the ACC. Just to wrap things up, where do you think, do you think that's accurate? Do you think they'll be a little better than that? Lower half of the ACC. What do you think?
I think they may be better than 10th. I really do. I mean, they have so much to prove. And these guys who came back, like Isaiah Wong and Cam McGusty, they really did consider leaving, but they're back and they really want to prove something. I think that the new guys coming in, Charlie Moore, for sure wants to show, that he can be a replacement for Chris Likes and get back on the court and do what he does. And, Sam Wardenberg didn't get to play last year. He's very hungry and he's a real team leader. He and Rodney Miller are both big vocal leaders. They've been around, like I said, they're probably both 24 years old by now. And so I think they're going to have a lot of experience on this team. They're going to have some exciting freshmen, but they're going to have a lot of experience, including a guy like Charlie Moore, who's played on all different leagues, played all over the country. I predict, I don't know, I think they could finish in the top 8. Yeah.
Gosh,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, it's a pleasure having you on, talking from ACC Hoops. Thank you to everyone else for tuning into Pittsburgh Sports Live. I'm George Michalowski, and that's all we got from that.